VTuber 一問一答自己紹介
Yeah, and the tape's
それじゃあ
rolling.
行くよせーのお名前は
Katt Phloxworthy.
呼び方は
Just Cat is fine.
あなたは何系 VTuber?
Nerdy cat girl who features spaceflight.
誕生日は
May 4th.
年齢は
Older than Pneumatic.
性別は
Transgender
身
female.
長は
4'11".
出身は
Sacramento County.
チャームポイントは
Dialogue hair clip.
突然ですがモノマネどうぞ
Yeah, what's up, Dad?
活動場所は
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube.
はじめの挨拶
Thank you for joining me.
終わりの挨拶
Bye.
推しマークは
None at present.
配信タグは
Catlight feed.
ファンアートは
Cat pics.
ファンネームは
Cat's apprentices.
好きな色は
Iris Indigo.
好きなことは
Vintage computers and
得意
video.
なことは
Technology.
ここで一言愛の告白好
I love you.
きな食べ物は
Ethnic foods.
好きな飲み物は
Craft soda.
好きな漫画は
Pizza 10.
好きなアニメは
Planet.
好きなゲームは
Left 4 Dead 2.
好きな音楽は
Classic rock.
苦手なことは
Human stupidity.
尊敬するのは
Space hurry people.
叶えたい夢は
ISS crew
最後にみん
interview.
なに一言どう
Thanks
ぞ
so much for your support and a final status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Katt Phlox.
You have permission to launch.
3, 2, 1. RD-180 ignition, booster ignition, and liftoff of Atlas V and Centaur. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Katt Phloxworthy here. We're about to go live to the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where ROSCOSMOS is getting ready to launch a Soyuz 2.1B rocket with what is called the Progress MUM mission, or in Russian, Progress MUM. That stands, and the UM standing for Uzlovoy Modul, or node module. Well, basically what it is, it's the new module Prichal, which means birth in Russian, B-E-R-T-H. Though the main difference is that they actually dock rather than birth. If you're talking in strict, if you want to talk strictly in the language that the ISS uses when it comes to bringing vehicles onto the structure. Basically, these vehicles that will connect to this particular module will be automatically and autonomously bringing themselves onto the structure, as opposed to being grappled by a remote manipulator system like the Canadarm2 and brought against a berthing port like the Cygnus is, as well as the Japanese module and the old versions of the Dragon cargo capsule. Nowadays, Cargo Dragon as well as Crew Dragon dock as opposed to being birthed, and of course Soyuz and Progress always have. And here's the thing: this actually has a Progress lower portion of it, which consists of the what would otherwise be considered the descent module on a standard crewed Soyuz capsule, and as well as the instrument compartment, which contains 2 solar arrays as well as the propulsion system. However, instead of the regular habitation module, or the letters in Russian would be BO, that's been replaced by the Prichal module, which replaces Pirs that went down in flames, along with Progress MS-18 when it departed the ISS earlier this year. And basically what's happening is that Pirs was removed by way of Progress MS-18 to clear the way for the Nauka lab module, which went up earlier this year, and of course had a little bit of a fit with its thrusters, which caused a considerable rotation of the International Space Station, about 540 degrees, in fact. That has since been corrected. It ended up scrubbing the CST-100 Starliner, but other issues are keeping it on the ground. So anyway, let's head over to the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where we are waiting for the vehicle to launch. And right now, only the technical feed is up, regular ROSCOSMOS commentary feed, and apparently NASA doesn't have anything on YouTube, but NASA TV does, but I'm not sure how we're going to get that in there without capturing a browser, which I just as soon not do. What you're seeing there is the Soyuz 2.1B rocket on the pad, presumably location 316, sometimes known as Gagarin Start, which is where Yuri Gagarin famously made his flight from that pad via Vostok 1, being the first human to orbit the Earth. However, he ended up staying in his module only up until about a few thousand, several tens of thousands of feet in the air, at which point he ejected from his module. And of course, the requirements mean that requirements have that you actually stay in your vehicle until you descend completely to the ground, which started with the Voskhod series. One of whom was the first ever. One of the people aboard one of those Voskhod missions was none other than the recently passed Alexei Leonov, who also went on to do another first, which happened to be coincidental with a bunch of U.S. firsts, which is the first joint mission, the Apollo-Soyuz test project, back in 1974. Or was it 73? I forget. Actually, I think it was 74 because Ford was in office when that happened, and there's the vehicle. There's the and since it's just like a regular, crude, since it's like the Soyuz mission, it has a fairing, and this one's larger than normal, and since this is considered a Progress mission, it's actually going to be taking supplies up there in the module that would otherwise be considered a part of the actual Progress vehicle itself. I'm not sure how much freight there's in the Prichal module, but in any event, what'll happen is unlike Pirs, where Progress MS-18 goes up and then goes down with an additional module, this one goes up with the module, leaves the module there, and the rest of it detaches and goes down and burns up in the atmosphere. And for those who aren't familiar with the Soyuz vehicle, this is the Soyuz 2.1B. Has slightly upgraded engines on the third stage, rather, which is the stage to which the actual vehicle is attached. Believe it has an upgraded engine. Everything else, the first and second stage, are pretty much identical to the 2.1A. And the difference between the 2.1A and the one immediately prior to that, the Soyuz FG, basically is that the Soyuz 2.1 series use digital computers as opposed to analog computers. One of the byproducts of that is there are two advantages to that. One is that it can use larger payload fairings and thus larger payloads. Apparently, the FG has difficulty handling some of these larger ones, and on top of that, the FG can actually roll its. Unlike the FG, the 2.1A and 2.1B can actually roll in flight to match the azimuth of what it's doing. Otherwise, if it's an FG or prior, they actually have to rotate the launch pad to the correct azimuth and then pitch over as soon as they've gotten airborne. So what they could do is just like say the shuttle, for example, when you hear Houston Discovery roll program, that means the vehicle is going on a program, rolling the vehicle around to the proper attitude. In the case of going up to the International Space Station, that's at a 51.6 degree inclination against the equator. And the reason why they have to launch in Kazakhstan as opposed to their own cosmodromes, both in Plesetsk in northwestern Russia and Vostochny in northeastern Russia, is because those things are so high up in lines of latitude, they can't match the orbit properly. As such, they end up launching from they end up launching from Kazakhstan in the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which has been around since the 1950s when Kazakhstan was part of the Soviet Union. As such, now they actually have to lease the space from Kazakhstan in order to do all the launches. So, and we're now just inside of 21 minutes until launch. I saw earlier, just before I went live, that everything is pretty much, they were pretty much most of the way fueled because basically I'm seeing a lot of the venting of oxygen that's expanding inside the tanks, which will happen probably all the way up until like maybe the last couple of minutes before launch, at which point they close everything out. They close the fill and drain valves, and then they start pressurizing the tanks to get them ready for liftoff. Also, another thing of note, you'll see that there are 4 hold downs. Those, I think, are connected with each of the 4, just above the 4 main thrusters, which have an engine each. Those form part of the first stage. They look conical in shape and connect to the side of the center core booster, which also acts as part of the first stage, but ultimately becomes the second stage when those first 4 detach in a configuration that that is always described as what is called the Korolev Cross, named for the R7 Semyorka's creator, Sergei Korolev. The R7 Semyorka is the ICBM upon which all these other rockets are based, the Vostok, Voskhod, Molniya, and of course now Soyuz. And those will disconnect at about 2 minutes into the flight and peel away, with the center core burning an additional 4 minutes. After which, near the end of the fourth stage, second stage burn, the third stage will light while it's still connected to the second stage, in a process called hot firing. If we get any kind of close-up looks, just below that ring, I'd say about 2/3 of the way up on the vehicle. Below that is a lattice work area, which will allow the flame to go out once the engine lights. And the actual band itself consists of 3 parts, which will detach as the vehicle gets ready to stage. And after the stages separate, those 3 surround the third stage engine to protect it from any kind of damage from foreign objects on the outside as the vehicle ascends. And we're we're about 18 and a half minutes from liftoff. And as they get ready to lift off, one of the things you'll notice is that there are 2 umbilical towers that connect to different points of the vehicle. The first one, which is the topmost one, which you can see in the camera now, will pull away first at about T-minus 35 seconds, followed by the next one 20 seconds later at T-minus 15. And right around that time, they'll start lighting the engines, first by flowing the kerosene in there. It uses a form of kerosene. I don't know if it's the actual same formulation as RP-1, which is what American rockets use. And then shortly thereafter, they will start flowing liquid oxygen in there to make the flame much more energetic. And as soon as everything's up to speed, they'll go ahead and release all 4 of those clamps and let the vehicle fly upward. So we are now 17 and a half minutes away from liftoff. There's the fairing. And this will be interesting to see when they take it up there. From what I've been able to see in the pictures, it looks just like looks kind of bulbous in appearance. When you look at the upper half where everybody's in there, what they'll do is that's where the module is. It has a total of 5 points, 6 connection points. One that will connect to the far end of Nauka, which doesn't have anything yet. You could put a Soyuz directly or Progress directly on it, but instead Prichal will go to it, and it'll have 5 more ports available, whether for Soyuz vehicles, Progress vehicles, or any other additional modules they wish to send up there. At this point in time, I suspect they won't be sending any more vehicles up there because ROSCOSMOS has stated the intention of leaving the ISS come 2024. We'll have to see about that in about a couple years. If that's the case, I see it kind of I personally see it a little bit on the counterproductive side to even launch Nauka, let alone Prichal. But then again, from what I understand, Nauka has been pretty held up in terms of getting it to launch. 16 minutes just inside of there. So basically, if they're going to, and on top of that, ROSCOSMOS is going to be building their own space station right around that time. They cite the age of their of all the modules that they have on there, including and especially Zarya, which is the very first one to launch. And believe it or not, that is not owned by Russia. Even though it's made by Russia, it's not owned by Russia. It's owned by the U.S. It belongs to NASA. Everything else belongs to Russia, though. And just about everything else was launched by Russian. All of them were launched by Russian rockets, with the notable exception of Rassvet, which was launched by a space shuttle mission. Probably the only Russian module that's lifted by an American launch vehicle. And we're coming up on 15 minutes until launch. 15 minutes. So what'll happen is that interesting how these various rockets light up. Like, for example, I was watching Astra the other night. They basically use what amounts to spark plugs in their first stage engine, and then of course the many of the others, including Falcon 9, Electron, as well as Atlas on the ground. I'm not sure what they use for ignition for the RL-10, which is in the Centaur stage. I believe all of the ones that I mentioned for previously, they all use some either triethylborane by itself or aluminum triethylborane, or TTEB, which is a pyrophoric liquid which ignites in the presence of oxygen. And this one, and in the case of, I believe, Delta IV Heavy, they use what are called ROFI to ignite that. They use that to ignite a lot of the leftover hydrogen that may be venting out of there through the various cracks and crevices within the vehicle to keep it from potentially making an explosive situation there before liquid oxygen starts flowing in there. That's the reason why if you ever see a Delta IV Heavy, you'll see big, huge flames coming up the side, which is actually perfectly normal. RP-1 does not have that issue, and in the case of the space shuttle engine, everything is lit from within, and they start flowing the liquid hydrogen literally right before the main engines are supposed to start. And not so much where you have a whole bunch of flames shooting up the side. T-minus 13 minutes. Because one of the requirements, from what I understand, for a rocket to be human rated is that we don't have much in the way of flames crawling up the sides of the vehicle. In the case of Delta IV Heavy, the chances are it probably will never be human rated. And on top of that, I think there are only a limited number of launches left of that. And of course there are there's a limited number of launches of Atlas V now, because Tory Bruno has said that all remaining flights have been sold. Of course, they're trying to get out of Atlas V because of the RD-180, which of course is a Russian-supplied engine, and a law went into effect saying that after 2023, the U.S. government cannot use foreign-made power, so they have to use something like the BE-4 T-minus 12 minutes, which is Blue Origin's Methalox engine, which will also be on its own New Glenn vehicle. There is another good view of the vehicle on the pad with the gantries pulled away, and you can see the first umbilical there on the side. You can probably see a little bit of the second umbilical, which is just below the skirt, which protects this third stage engine. And of course, you see 3 of the 4 hold downs, which are holding the rocket in place until the vehicle is fully ready to go. And unlike a lot of the other places where you see a water deluge for acoustic protection, Russia's solution is to have a much deeper flame trench, mainly because Baikonur can get very, very cold, which renders the idea of a water deluge useless, because the water would freeze over in a hurry, potentially. So we're coming up on T-minus 10 minutes. And the vehicle looks like it's pretty much most of the way fueled and ready to go. Ten and a half minutes. And also another thing that the service structure has when it's fully brought up, the gantries are brought fully up, is the superstructure necessary for crewing up of Soyuz vehicles. Back at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, if we ever get another Atlas Centaur launch again, you can just inside of 10 minutes, you'll see a gantry that comes along the side. There's also a gantry that has all the superstructure necessary for handling crewed missions. And that's for when they launch the CST-100 Starliner by Boeing once it ever gets fixed up. They're still working on the issue of what happened with why some valves are being stuck open. Don't have any specific ETL, estimated time to launch. But from my understanding, it'll be happening sometime next year. But no specific dates given as of yet. I'm still keeping an eye on both ULA's and Boeing Space's Twitter feeds to see what's happening on that, as well as, of course, NASA's, because that's also that's part of the commercial crew program. And also another one that's being considered, originally was considered for the crew program, but it's now being considered as part of the cargo program, is Sierra Nevada's Dream Chaser, which the first ones will be launched on an Atlas Centaur vehicle. It works much like a shuttle. The only difference is that it's partially reusable. In fact, one part of it will actually detach from the vehicle, which is designed to be a garbage, sort of a garbage chute, as it were. And it'll come down and land just like a shuttle, or just like Boeing's X-37 super secret shuttle-like vehicle, which we don't know what's in there yet. And some of those vehicles have been up for more than some of the missions it's been on has been up for more than a year. We're within 8 minutes. What I found rather interesting is that they had people at the pad even when the vehicle was in the process of, in the early process of tanking, which is kind of, why do they do that? Are we asking for another Nedelin disaster for that? That just doesn't make any sense. But then again, this is Russia we're talking about, so yeah. And we're coming up on 7 minutes until liftoff. And I was rewatching a documentary recently about the Nedelin catastrophe, wherein Mitrofan Nedelin, Field Marshal Mitrofan Nedelin, perished during a test of the R-16 rocket. And apparently they were doing a lot of the testing and production stuff at the same time, which is dangerous. I'm going to turn this down just a smidge. So we're coming up on 6 minutes before liftoff. And also, if this were a normal progress mission, this would also be just a plain old fairing, because unlike the Soyuz upon which it is based, there is no life support system, nor is there any kind of escape apparatus installed on this vehicle. Basically, they don't need it. And the same holds true for the Cargo Dragon when they launch those. Basically, because they are sending cargo. In this case, one module of the vehicle itself will actually be staying behind. In this case, the Prichal module, which of course is the multi-port docking module that will attach to the end of Nauka, and the rest will be. And like any other Progress vehicle, and unlike the Prichal portion of it, which is staying, like I said before, the lower part will be filled with refuse once all the cargo has been offloaded and stored in the appropriate places aboard the space station. Coming up on 5 minutes. T-minus 5 minutes. I guess they have to have that in order to have the right, so they can send the vehicle up there, because otherwise it would have no propulsion on it, which is why they basically made it a full Progress mission. And the other designation is Progress 78, which basically, I mean, it'll look like a standard Progress vehicle. The only difference is that the habitation module will be considerably larger, and also have multiple ports on it. With one end going on Nauka and the other 5, as I'd mentioned before, being available for docking other vehicles on there or other modules. And basically, this replaces the Pirs module that departed with Progress MS-18 some months ago. And this is to complement the Nauka launch, which I believe launched back in July atop a Proton M rocket. Okay, inside of 4 minutes. Hopefully we'll get a view from this side when they get ready to launch. In about 3.5 minutes from now, we'll see everything. Let's hope everything goes up just as it should. Again, at about the T-minus 35 mark, they'll be detaching and pulling away the first of the two gantry, first of the two umbilicals, the one up top, which is just below the fairing, and the second one will be just below the third stage's engine skirt, and just below the lattice work that separates the third and second stages. And at that point, they'll start the engines running. Shortly after that, once engines are starting to move fast enough, they will start blowing liquid oxygen in there. And after that, they will let go of the clamps once everything is up and running as it should. 2.5 minutes to go. I think one of the reasons why they got rid of Pirs is because its Core's docking radar was having issues with it. Was having issues with the Core's docking radar, which is used for vehicles when they approach the docking ports. T-minus 2 minutes. So basically, the last one, more than a full vehicle went down. In this case, more than a full vehicle is going up, and less of it is going down. A full vehicle, and of course with MS-18, a full vehicle went up and a little more of it went down. Minute and a half to go. T-minus 1 minute. In about 20 seconds, they'll be pulling away the first of 2 umbilicals. $10 from the first umbilical. Hopefully, if they stay on this one, we'll be able. There it goes. There goes the first umbilical. They should be pulling the next one away momentarily. There goes the first one. Shortly thereafter, the second one will pull away. There it goes. The engines are starting. Turbo pump should be coming up to speed. There it goes. And liftoff of Soyuz 2.1B, carrying the Progress MUM mission up to the International Space Station, bringing a new docking module to the International Space Station's Russian segment, and the vehicle has cleared the tower. And what you're seeing is the base of the four first stage elements, as well as the base of the center core stage, which is first and second stage. You'll see smaller engines on there. They're all vernier engines. They will move while each of the 5 engines of the first stage remain in one position. The vernier engines will do all the steering. There are 2 on each block L segment, and there's 4 on the center stage. There's the pad. Hoping we can get some more coverage of that. Let me see if I can find something on Roscosmos' YouTube page. Okay, I've got a stream that I can go ahead and look at. Everything is still nominal. After about the first 2 minutes, there is the Roscosmos feed. 10 seconds from staging. Five seconds, 4, 3. Probably won't get to see it, but there go the first stage elements, the block L's, forming the Korolev cross. The center core block is still firing. It'll fire for another 2 minutes. After those 2 minutes, the third stage, which is atop this particular block, will fire while still attached to the second stage. And shortly after that, three red pieces around the third stage engine will fall away. Everything is still nominal. It's about to cross the Kármán line in just under 19 kilometers. That'll probably happen right around staging. They have crossed the Kármán line. They are now officially in space, per international standards. They will likely start to throttle down to maintain lift. About a minute left in the burn. So it looks like they'll actually discard the fairing halves just shortly after they stage. About 30 seconds left in the burn. Everything's still nominal. Just under 10 seconds. 5 seconds to go in the burn. Third stage is hot firing and is detached from the second stage. The protective skirt and the fairings have all jettisoned. And then this one will burn for about another 4 minutes. Everything's still nominal. And shortly after the third stage shuts off, they'll almost immediately jettison the third stage with the vehicle going on, with the remainder going out on its own. There's Prichal at the top. I think because of the size of the Prichal, that's why they had a much larger fairing on it. Still ascending. It's now mainly acquiring orbital velocity. We're now within 2 minutes left of the burn. almost a minute left, a little bit more than a minute left in the burn. A minute left, 60 seconds. It is almost at the full 27,000 kilometers per hour for orbital speed. We're at 60 seconds actually now, I'm sorry. Coming up on half a minute. 30 seconds left in the burn. $20 seconds. Guidance is nominal. 10 seconds left. Should be getting engine cutoff. And the third stage has separated from Progress MUM. And shortly after that, the solar panels on the instrumentation module will extend, providing the vehicle with power, as well as the various antennas that need to be deployed for navigation and docking. And now it's on its own. And unlike crewed vehicles, they won't do the Holman maneuvers, which will raise the orbit in about anywhere between 3 and 6 orbits. Or actually, more accurately, 1 or 2 orbits. My apologies.
Транспортный грузовой корабль-модуль «Прогресс МУМ» выведен на околоземную орбиту и принят к управлению СУПом.
Нельзя не сказать о том, что
Anyway, that is the launch of Progress MUM, which is the vehicle that is going up there with not just a regular Progress module, at least half of it anyway. Basically, it is the vehicle that will be that's going to be leaving behind a new docking module at the end of Nauka, the free end of Nauka, and will be coming home in lots of little pieces as it enters the atmosphere. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. I thank you very much for coming and watching. And if you're seeing this after the fact, thank you for watching. In any event, I normally broadcast on Twitch, and all my socials you'll see are on the scroll side of things. I need to actually set up a command that'll actually do that, because I've got Stream Elements set up for my Twitch side, but I don't think I've done it for my YouTube side. So I can be found at Twitter at twitter.com/CattPhlox, and of course on YouTube, Twitch as twitch.tv/Katt Phloxworthy, and of course all my other socials are down there too. I'm also on Instagram at instagram.com/Katt Phloxworthy. In any event, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't rate anybody right now because this is YouTube and doesn't quite have that just yet. So anyway, I thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great morning, and I will see you soon. And basically just keep an eye on my socials for any of my streams that are coming up, and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.